With all the suffering and anxiety out there, we all can use some healing, some comfort. Please join me in part 3 of this series, The Divine Art of Healing, 7 Steps to Comfort. This is based on a 3,000 plus year formula, time-tested, to help us find strength, resilience, fortitude, and all the resources needed to get through any challenge in life. Remember, for every challenge, we're also given tools, skills, strengths. And this 7-step formula, comfort, is all hidden in the word comfort itself, with the C being connect, the O of comfort, open your heart, the M, make space, the F, feel, the O is offer light, and finally the R, reassure, and the T for transform. So we've covered the COM, connect, open your heart, make space. And in this third part, we'll be discussing the F for feel, and the O for offer light. Please join me. Hi, this is Simon Jacobson, and this is part 3 of our series, The Divine Art of Healing, 7 Steps to Comfort. This part 3, we'll be discussing the F and O of comfort, feel, and offer light. This program is dedicated in honor of Karen Ashkenazi, with gratitude and warm wishes on her birthday. So the word comfort itself is made up of 7 letters, and as such, 7 steps to a 3,000-year formula for healing and finding comfort. After discussing connect, open your heart, and make space, we'll discuss now the next 2 steps, which are feel and offer light. Obviously, every form of comforting and consolation requires an emotional connection. As I often share the line, that one of my favorites, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That's how connections are made. And indeed, that's why comfort begins with connect, and then follows with open your heart and make space. But now we want to go a little deeper into how we empathize, the feel, the F of comfort. So though, yes, it sounds similar to open your heart, but no, empathy has itself many levels. As I said, comfort in general means I care, and therefore I'm there for you. But when you feel for someone, it's more than just sympathy, it's empathy. It's not mercy. It's the true ability to transcend yourself and really be there for another. I'll share a story. It was years ago, the Meaningful Life Center, we were doing an annual summer retreat, called a camping retreat, a weekend. We took one weekend this summer, mid-August. There were different times, every year was a different weekend. And we had quite a few hundred people would come out, real camping, pitch tents. We had some professionals helping us. We had a big central tent, an outdoor caterer, It was really very extraordinary, more memorable experience. There's something about the natural environment when you're not in man-made structures that brings out a certain vulnerability and thus commonality, camaraderie of kindred spirits. That's exactly what happened. But being that we know it was roughing it a bit, it wasn't exactly a 5-star hotel. We had, as I said, some professionals. We had a good staff to make sure everybody felt comfortable, help them pitch the tent, brave the elements. Sometimes it rained. We had it pretty well covered. But there's always challenges when you're out there. And you're not, you can't hide behind the wall and behind the structure. So we had trained people who would be there to help people get through any difficulties they may have. And we had like a hierarchy. If someone was really having complaints or difficulties, send them to their superior. I was obviously the last person that people came to at last resort. Anyway, there was a woman who had come, had signed up and joined the weekend. And she was creating a lot of trouble, basically. When I say trouble, not necessarily that she was the problem, but she was complaining about everything. She didn't like how the tent was, the location. Everything bothered her. And nobody was able to deal with it. She was really being very annoying and very, it was still before the weekend, before Shabbat. So some of the staff said, we're happy to help get you back home. Maybe it's not for you. No, she's here. But nothing satisfied her. So finally they sent her to me. It was Friday night. And I remember sitting and speaking with her near her tent. She was really angry and resentful. I realized very quickly that it was not about us. And it was not about the camping weekend. She was going through something, and I just was very sensitive. And I said, we're here to help in every given way. We're happy to bring you a meal to your tent. You don't have to come to the central tent. Anything you need, please don't hesitate. I did everything possible. She still was upset, and she didn't say why. So I realized, fine, let her deal with it. And I said, we're here. And I had someone check up on her every half hour. Anyway, next day, Shabbos day, Saturday, and we were praying in the central tent, which was really beautiful, a big central tent, a lot of people together, singing. It was very natural. It was really beautiful, heartwarming. Then I shared a few words. It was the Shabbos, actually, it was called the Shabbos after Tisha B'Av, called Shabbos Nachamu, the first of the 7 weeks of comfort, which of course is connected to the very 7 steps we're discussing. And I spoke about the power of comforting another. Because the first, after Tisha B'Av, the saddest day of the Jewish calendar, which commemorates the destruction of both temples, so it begins the weeks of comfort. And the first one is comfort, nachamu, nachamu, ami, comfort my people, my nation, my people, after what they've gone through. So I asked the question, I said, why is God sending a prophet to comfort the people? Why doesn't he come himself to comfort them? Since he's the one that hurt them, so to speak, he should come to comfort. Why is he sending a messenger? And it's only after the Jews demand that God himself come that he finally agrees and comes to comfort them himself. Anoichi, anoichi, hu menachemchem. Why doesn't he come in the first place? So I suggested an answer. Because for God to comfort us, obviously God can comfort us, but he wanted to give us the gift that there's a power that even though we're mortals, and we all may be in the same boat, we may all be suffering together, and challenges, you would think, how could one person who's hurt help another person who's hurt? He said, no, I want you to comfort each other. There's some power that lies in the fact that you visit each other, that you care, that you show that comfort. And I elaborated on this point. And then in addition to that, God also comes to comfort us. Okay. With that said, I finished my talk. The woman, the one that was very angry the night before, I saw standing at the side, listening to me very closely. Then she came over to me and said, I'd like to speak with you. And with tears in her eyes, she said, I know I was very, very aggressive, very arrogant, and very, she blamed herself basically and said, it was nothing to do with you or with anyone here. Everybody was really wonderful. I was in very deep pain. You have to remember, she says, today is the first yahrzeit, the anniversary of the death of my young son, who died at the age of 19 years old. It's the first yahrzeit. And I came here this weekend just to be able to find some comfort. So you can imagine how vulnerable and how distressed and grief-ridden I am. And I can't really get over it. And I'm sorry for taking it out on everyone here. I'm extremely bitter. I'm just acknowledging it. But I want to tell you, I did listen to your words, and I realize what you said was 100% right. And I want to tell you that. I feel comforted, even though you're a human being and we're all humans, that you do have the power to comfort each other. And it's not just God. And you did help me just by speaking that way. I want to appreciate and share my appreciation to you and to everyone involved. I'll never forget this story. It has such a deep impact on me because I saw with my own eyes the power of empathy, of feeling. That is the power that we have to comfort each other. So in each of these stages, in each of these 7 steps, there's an element, obviously, of empathy. Connect, open your heart, make space. But feel is when you really allow yourself to put yourself in another person's shoes. And you may never be actually there, but you comfort. You may not have answers, explanations, rationalizations. That's not what's needed. It's feeling. And it was this woman going through the horrible. I mean, can you even imagine a parent losing a child? One of the worst tragedies. You never get over it. And, had she told me this before, I wouldn't even be able to find words to, what am I supposed to say? But everything was meant to be. And I remember throughout the rest of the weekend, she was obviously far more, more accommodating, easier to talk to, but you could see the anguish. And I went over to her a few times, how was things going? We were staying in touch, but you never get over it. But some type of strength she did gain. And this is what all of us can do for each other when we comfort each other, the feel. To feel for another. And this is a big thing because the fact is, human nature is often about me. Yes, we show empathy, compassion, we're kind, hopefully. But at the end of the day, you travel with yourself. You yourself are alone. And we also have been trained to think if I don't take care of myself, who will be? So the idea to be able to transcend those parameters of our own self-contained existence is actually the ultimate demonstration of something divine within every human being. No, that we're not just self-contained, driven by the id, driven by survival of the fittest, dog eats dog, and from time to time, or when it's needed, like some evolutionary biologists will explain, that even when you feel for someone, it's also because you need something. Richard Dawkins' famous, the selfish gene, everything is selfish. Even our selflessness is selfish. Always bothers me that we indeed have the ability to transcend ourselves. And this doesn't take away from serving your own needs. In many ways, it actually enhances that. That's feel. And from that, let us move to the O of comfort, the next O. Offer light. So it's one thing to feel, to empathize, but offer light, offer strength. Now, what is the point of light? Let's talk about light. There's an expression in the book of Ecclesiastes that says the following. King Solomon is writing, I have seen the advantage of wisdom over folly, similar to the advantage of light over darkness. Why does he use the example of light and dark? Because light and dark has an interesting phenomenon, interesting natural phenomenon. Excuse me. When you think of fire and water, for instance, yes, they're two antithetical forces at war with each other. Enough fire can evaporate large bodies of water. Enough water can extinguish large fires. When it comes to light and dark, it doesn't work that way. You bring even a little light in a dark room, automatically, without battle, the light will dispel the darkness, without any effort. Now, if there's no light, obviously darkness will prevail. So in other words, darkness is really the absence of light. And it teaches us something. There are times where you have a battle with forces, and they could be equal forces, and depends who's stronger. But when it comes to certain challenges, especially in the challenges of the heart and the soul, the darkness that comes from pain, from loss, from tragedy, we need to know that light will always dispel darkness. This doesn't mean we minimize or we ignore or deny the challenge. It means the best way to heal ultimately is not to fight the darkness, not to fight the grief, but to introduce positive forces into your life. It's become more and more common, but this goes back to this 3,000-year formula. But now it's become more popular. You really want to help yourself, help others. When you bring light into your life, it fills your heart. So when there's more light, there's less room for darkness. That's what light does. And it's counterintuitive at times, because you could think, right now, I'm in a miserable state, despondent, hopeless, and I want to be alone. Now, there are times when that may be helpful, but very often that just makes the problem worse. So the solution is to bring light, to create light, to initiate. And it does a few things. Firstly, it fills that vacuum within us with light, which dispels darkness. Secondly, it takes your mind off the negative. You're focusing on the positive. And finally, and maybe above all, the most powerful aspect of this is that the positivity ultimately becomes the focus, that you're actually helping other people. And you're seeing in that an empowerment. You see your own ability to do something. Because one of the things, the demoralization that results from difficult situations, is you start to feel powerless, you feel worthless. When you see that you've helped someone, they thank you for it. Or even if they don't thank you, but you recognize at the end of the day, wow, I've helped someone. It starts feeding that self-confidence that's always there within you. To take it a step further, in the context of how we help people, and in general, what the nature of human nature is. There are theories that this world is a dark world, and that's its natural self. I mentioned before the id, survival of the fittest, that's the nature of a person. But we can overcome that with the ego, the superego in Freudian language, that brings positivity into the world. This 3,000-year formula argues very differently. You are by nature light. Your soul is a flame. That's the essence of who you are. If something goes wrong and you have pain or loss, that's not your natural you. That's an aberration. That's an anomaly. It makes you think that it's you. So what happens to us in life, the difficult things that happen to us in life, they happen to you. You can suffer, but you're not a sufferer. You're not a sufferer. Don't let it define you. It's not your identity. Your identity is light. So when we talk about offer light, we're talking about offering and helping people recognize that that's who they truly are. You are a source of light. So besides the one that is doing the comforting and bringing light, you're helping ignite the light within that person's soul. And that's what a flame does. A flame ignites another flame without getting diminished. On the contrary, it gets stronger. That's another thing with light. Everything else, when you give, you have less of. You give someone a cup of water from your pitcher has less water in it. You give someone money or food. With light, you give to another light. Your light doesn't get diminished. If anything, gets stronger as you see different light combine. And they be joined as one. So that's the next step in bringing comfort to others. And this, of course, takes it beyond the empathy. The empathy is critical, the feel. But this takes it beyond because you're actually empowering someone with the tools they will need. So, for example, no one should ever know this, but someone is sitting Shiva, they're honoring, mourning, and grieving over the death of a loved one. So, obviously, all the steps we talked about, connect, open your heart, make space, feel, are critical. But there's one more thing you can do. And that is give people hope. You tell someone, look, I'm here to honor, I'm here to cry with you. But the beautiful values and the beautiful contributions that your loved one who's passed was devoted to, let us dedicate. I want to dedicate. I'm going to do something in that honor. You're bringing light. In addition to remembering, obviously, with the sadness and the grief, you're bringing light because you're perpetuating the spirit of that person. And spirit and soul is connected to light. I mentioned again in the book of Proverbs, the soul of a human being is the flame of God. That's indeed why we light flames, why we light candles in honor of a soul. Because a candle is the closest approximation to a soul. So what was the best way to honor a soul? To light a candle. Which also means to bring light to others, to illuminate people, to motivate them, to inspire them. That's all part of this journey. So there you have the next two steps. Steps number 4 and 5 in comfort, which is feel, the F of comfort, and the O, offer light. And combined with the previous steps of the COM, connect, open your heart, make space, you start seeing the building of a structure, of a comprehensive blueprint, if you wish, to help comfort, to help strengthen, to help empower people, no matter what we're going through. And of course, these lessons and messages are not just for those that are in pain, but for all of us. And I hope these words themselves were comforting. And as I mentioned, we are in these weeks, the 7 weeks of comfort that lead from the saddest day in the calendar to the new year, Rosh Hashanah. I wish everyone a very blessed year. And in the final part, we will speak about the last two words of comfort, RT, which is reassure and transform. Be blessed and be well. This has been Simon Jacobson of the Meaningful Life Center, meaningfullife.com. These words are meaningful and comforting to you. Please share with others. Love to hear your feedback, comments, thoughts, questions. And of course, please subscribe to these offerings, to our YouTube channel. Be blessed and be well.
This program is brought to you by the Meaningful Life Center. Please help us continue our programs. Make even a small contribution at meaningfullife.com/donate. This program is brought to you by the Meaningful Life Center. Please help us continue our programs. Make even a small contribution at meaningfullife.com/donate.